Let's think for a moment. You're Sega. You have a massively successful IP in Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic the Hedgehog has just hit its stride, releasing consistently really quality and well-received games, using the almost exact same formula with minor tweaks. People had issues with them, but they are mostly well-received. So what do? Obviously, the next logical step would be to make a third game, same formula, just improving on the things that people thought were bad with the previous games. And so what does Sega do instead? They made a Sonic Lost World. What exactly is a Sonic Lost World? Well, we're about to find out. When first looking at Sonic Lost World, someone might think it's a resurgence of the adventure formula, but actually it differs quite a bit. Sonic Lost World, for instance, doesn't have momentum, but instead it switches it out for a run button, which got a lot of criticism at the beginning of the announcement, because it's similar to Mario, which is a feel this game overall has. But Sonic Lost World also swaps out the boost for a spin dash and a bunch of other brand new moves, like the charge homing attack. If you stand still next to an enemy and let your homing attack charge, you can get up to 3 levels, and it'll one-shot bosses easily, maybe 2 shots. Bosses become really easy after this, so definitely use it as much as possible. Also the kick homing attack, which is pretty handy, and it takes out enemies that normally can't be taken out. If you have an enemy with a shield, or the enemy that throws bombs at you, kick the bombs back at them, then kick to destroy their shield. This is the same button also used for the bounce, which is back again, although it's not really as impactful as it was in the original adventure games. Sonic Lost World overall introduces a brand new parkour system. This allows you to run on walls, although it's not as fleshed out as one might expect. It definitely could have used some more work in a sequel to Sonic Lost World, but for a new idea, it's pretty neat, and it's really fun to mess around with. It allows a feeling of a playground that hasn't been felt in a long time, ever since the adventure games. But what does Sonic Lost World take after? It's a really curious case, where I can see inspirations from classic Sonic, Mario, and the adventure formula all mixed in with a modern Sonic package. It's a really weird game. All in all, the objective is still the same. Beat Dr. Robotnik, collect red rings in every stage to unlock Super Sonic. You have to go through the story mode, fighting all the Zeddy, who are Eggman's new henchmen. And you just have to beat them all up, get to the final zone, and beat Dr. Eggman final boss. It's something we haven't seen before in terms of structure, but in terms of how you can go about beating the levels, it is definitely quite a bit different. The level design in Sonic Lost World is something brand new for the series. It has to accommodate for Sonic's movement, so it does this by using a lot of tubular-shaped level designs. And also, it really loves throwing gimmicks at you. Sonic Lost World will throw a gimmick at you about every 5 seconds, which is nice because it keeps ideas from getting stale, but also, some of these gimmicks are really bad and poorly executed. A lot of them are really fun, but half the time, you're not having fun with these gimmicks. Examples would be like Honeycomb Highway's gimmick. You're just running across, well, a honeycomb, and you just have to avoid obstacles. It's just an endless runner. This is really fun. Honeycomb Highway is one of the best stages in the game. Sea Bottom Segway is a beautiful stage with a beautiful soundtrack where you're constantly grinding on rails. You gotta open doors and avoid mine carts. It was really fun. But in contrast, you have stages like Sky Road Act 3, I believe, where you're just floating in the air. It's sort of like Cape Mario. And it doesn't control well at all. The flying doesn't control well, and you have to be very precise. Thankfully, it doesn't make a comeback, but that one just wasn't fun to control. And also, you had the sequel in the final zone to the Sea Bottom Sega stage, where they made all the minecarts explode. They ramped up the difficulty to an intense amount, and it made the stage unfun with all the new gimmicks they introduced. They lost all the fun and magic of the original stage, and these are in the same game. Admittedly, it is later in the game, so some difficulty could be used, but I don't know, this feels a bit much. Sonic Lost World definitely focuses more on a bit of a puzzle-solving and platforming approach. One of the most infamous stages in the game being the Snowball Waltz stage, where you're controlling Sonic as a snowball. Yeah, this one wasn't great. A lot of these gimmicks just don't control well, especially the ones where Sonic turns into a big object and has to roll around. Sonic Lost World overall feels like an amalgamation of ideas in terms of gameplay and level design. It takes inspiration from basically everywhere it can. It feels so weird, it meshes into this, well, sort of I don't know if I would call it a mess. It's mostly coherent, there's no glitches or anything, nothing major. The PC version is a bit buggy, which is the one I played, but overall, it's a pretty solid game in terms of everything. The visuals are outstanding, the soundtrack is one of the best I've heard in the series. No vocal tracks this time, just a bunch of sort of ambient background music, but it serves its theme really well. It gives this soundtrack a feeling of professionalism. But anyway, back on hand, Sonic Lost World takes inspiration from everywhere, and that's one of the big criticisms. It takes inspiration from Mario in two ways. Not only do we have the tubular level design, which is inspired by Mario Galaxy, we have the world structure, which is structured exactly like a new Super Mario Bros. Game. A world for grass, a world for sky, beach, lava to end it off. It definitely comes off as uninspired. Or well, it is inspired, just not where you think it is. And the level themes are definitely nothing like what we've seen from Sonic before. It's clear it took inspiration from Mario. The tubular level design I can forgive because Sonic goes about it in a very different way than Mario. It's actually pretty fun here, and it's a nice way to accommodate for Sonic's new moves. But overall, Sonic Lost World is definitely an attempt at recreating what made Mario Galaxy so special. And in that regard, it definitely doesn't succeed. But it has its own charm in its way. The art style is definitely more focused on classic Sonic, as all the enemies have retained their classic designs from the first few games. And overall, it does feel like a bit of a throwback in a lot of areas. But Sonic Lost World is overall a pretty fun time. Even though the level design can at times be unfair, and the gimmicks being really, really dumb, Sonic Lost World is an enjoyable time. Although, a lot of the levels are definitely not worth your time, but half the levels in this game are incredibly well designed. As I was saying, Sonic Lost World is really hard to love. It's a huge mixed bag in terms of quality and ideas. It does feel like a mishmash, a directionless mess. But it's not really a mess, it does flow together alright enough. But you can tell they had a ton of ideas but just didn't know where to go with them with this game. And nowhere is that more clear than the story. Ken Pontac and Warren Graff had full reign over the story this time, and they cranked it up to basically a Saturday morning cartoon. It's not as awful as some people say, but some of the dialogue in here is just awful. It's clearly directed at children, it's not a very good story, it's not terrible. It flows together enough, but the Deadly Six all are one-dimensional stereotypes. Eggman faked his death, roboticized Tails isn't given a boss fight again. I don't know what they have against that. But anyway, the story's not great, but it's a modern Sonic game, what do you expect? It wasn't a very important part of this game. The main part of this game I want to talk about was the controls and level design, and I think I've accomplished that well enough. So yeah, story, bad, gameplay, so very interesting. It feels like it's pulling in every single direction at once, and succeeding at half of them, and failing at the other half. It constantly throws new gimmicks at you that either work or don't, there's no in between. Some levels are excellently designed, and some levels I would rather not play again, I'd rather play 06 over them. And I hate 06. So, Sonic Lost World. I feel the mixed reception it got was very accurate. It appealed to some people, it didn't appeal to others. I don't think it was what Sonic needed at the time, but it's a curious case to look back upon. That's it for me, Davron, signing off.